Welcome to The Written, a reoccurring podcast featuring student works of nonfiction, short fiction, poetry, and more. Today, winners of the Fall 2022 College-Wide Reading Fiction Contest share excerpts from their stories and answer interview questions from New Media Lab member Anaya Barr. Enjoy the show.
Hi, my name is Annalise DeVito, and I'm a second-year history major here at DCCC. The following is an excerpt from my story, The Silence of Snow. August 23rd. Every so often, I have a dream where I find myself looking out at the sea before the flood, watching the sea churn back and forth as an incoming storm blew onto the coast. As I watch the water, I see a sign of how climate change is getting out of hand, how the ice near Vancouver is melting faster and faster, and the weather getting more and more unpredictable. Then, before I can move, I see the sea charge towards me, and then I know this is not a dream. It was a memory of the flood that took my parents, that took my friends. The water hits me, and I fall back as I land in the field of snow. I then look up at the sky and find myself wishing for more snow to come, as I watch the particles drift down from the sky. How I wished so hard. But as they say, be careful what you wish for. A loud siren fills the air as Aspen's head shot out from his diary. The warning bell. Something was coming. The door to the hut flew open as Nave poked his head in. Aspen, you need to look at this. Aspen shut his book and grabbed his coat off the hook. He quickly stepped outside and followed his friend's gaze. Aspen let out a breath as he gripped his jacket. Snow. More like a blizzard. Merrick, Nave yelled. Merrick poked his head out from the storage room. Lock everything up. This one's going to be a big one. Meet us in the den when you're done. Merrick nodded and disappeared. Aspen, make sure all the windows are locked up and then help me with the dogs. On it. Nave ran down the stairs as people all around ran in and out of houses in a panic as the snow cloud came even closer. Nave opened the door to the kennels as all 6 dogs lunged at him, panicked by the environment around them. Hey, everyone, stay calm. I'm going to get you out. Nave flicked out his switchblade and began to saw at the rope as the wind blew violently. Nave held onto each dog as he cut them free and carefully led them to the den. As he led the last dog out, a strong gust of wind blew as snow and large chunks of debris flew through the air. Nave let out a yell as he lost his footing and fell to the ground. Iggy let out a sharp bark as Merrick helped Nave up. We're out of time. We have to get inside. Where's Aspen? Nave yelled over the wind. Merrick looked over his shoulder. All he saw was white. Stay here. I'll go get him. Merrick, no! Nave's eyes widened as a shingle flew at him as he crouched down to the ground. Iggy barked again as he began to pull Nave's coat towards the den. Merrick, Aspen, he yelled, his voice lost in the wind. More debris flew through the air as Nave ran towards the den. He grabbed hold of the door as he took one last look. Then, out of the whiteness of the snow, Nave saw a figure carrying a body. Aspen, he yelled, leaping out of the den. Nave shielded his eyes as he helped Merrick into the den and grabbed hold of the door and sealed it shut. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Anaya Barr. I'm here today to chat with Annalise DeVito about her award-winning college-wide reading story titled The Silence of Snow. Hi, Annalise. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Anaya.
You're welcome. Let's get into it. Question number 1. What made you come up with the title, The Silence of Snow?
So when you pick up a book, the title is always what draws you in. In one way, the title is very literal. Snow is silent when it falls from the sky. But when you look deeper into the title, it represents the silence of the characters, all of the unsaid things. And with that, there's a lot of things that could have happened and been prevented if the boys just talked to each other.
Tell me about the writing process, the setting, the characters, the theme, and the plot.
So when it came to the setting, I knew I wanted something different. With climate changing so fast, there's so much of the melting and flooding of coastal cities. New York was definitely one of my first options, but most stories that we always read, New York is always the city. So I wanted to pick somewhere unique, and when I did some research, the city of Vancouver came to mind. With the writing process, I just tried every day to work on it a little bit. And then for the editing process, I reached out to everybody I knew so I could try to make this piece the best it could. As a writer, the first draft is never the draft. You can always try to make it better. And then when it came to the characters, I wanted the characters to have unique names. So I took two of my best friends' names and spelled them backwards. So that's their names, Nave and Merrick. As for who the characters are, the story revolves around Nave and Merrick's relationship, why they are the way they are, and mostly how they deal with their issues. And then as for the theme, communication is key. My mom's always told me through life with that. And a lot of things could have been prevented if the boys just talked. They kind of just yell at each other through the story. But if the boys just listen to each other, they can be really good friends. And then as for the plot, I wanted the stakes to be high. I wanted to create a unique and perilous way for the boys to get through the snowstorm from Vancouver to Edmonton. And at the time, I had recently gotten this game called the Red Lantern. It's where a girl is participating in the Adirongo, which is a dog sled competition that is in memory of the gnome sled run. So that's where my idea and inspiration came for how the boys would get to Edmonton.
Wow, that's very interesting. My third question is, talk to me a little about the dialogue. What was your inspiration?
I wanted to give the reader context of the situation, but not too much. I wanted them to be hooked, and I wanted the reader to feel like they were there and be thrust into the world that our characters are in. And then after we got context of the story, I wanted to transition into the setting. So when the character wishes for more snow, he tells the reader to be careful what they wish for, because right after that, the snowstorm appears, which ultimately changes his life.
I really enjoyed your story, Annalise. Thank you for coming in and talking to me about it. And again, congratulations on winning your award.
Thank you so much, Naya.
And now, Max Laguna's story.
Under ash and flame and sundered oaks, Juniper and Ash held hands within the inferno. The air here was dying, struggling to survive amidst the smoke that stole the sky. The sheer heat of the place pervaded, taking whatever fuel it could find. It would be enough to kill any who came across it unprepared and unwary. Of course, Juniper and Ash knew exactly what they were doing. It was their vocation, after all. They were scouts of the Last Hearth, the only remaining human settlement in what was left of the formerly United States. It had been roughly 2 centuries since the war that ushered a bloody end to America, after the conflict between those who loved power and those who did not. Freedom won out, though there weren't many to appreciate it. The Earth's climate was already wounded by the capitalists who poisoned and corrupted the climate for their own desires, and its effects would be felt long after. Despite, or more accurately in spite of this, the remnants of humanity came together and formed the Last Hearth. However, every few years, resources dwindle, and it's up to able and willing volunteers to venture into Wild Yonder to gather food and water, so that they all may survive a little longer. Juniper was garbed in a flame-resistant suit, a loose, garish thing that made her look like walking tinfoil. Still, it fulfilled its purpose, and she followed Ash's lead. Ash did not have such a suit. In fact, was there anyone else to behold them, the untrained eye might think they were striding through the flames with only the clothes on their back. The key to their survival laid under their skin, in the nanomachines and magnesium alloys that granted them their strength. What was fire to someone who could not die? Juniper took in oxygen through slow, steady breaths when something shimmered in the corner of her vision. Amidst the flames, there were faces, hazy, almost ethereal, but the features were clear. They were all in anguish, stretched out, screaming, and tears like fumes left their orange eyes. Though no sound left their banshee mouths, Juniper heard their words with perfect clarity.
Gaze upon the coward. Turn your eye to the machine's wicked ward. Killer, murderer, doff your armor. Step into the blazing terror. Join us in hell.
Tears welled in Juniper's eyes. Though if it was from the heat or the ghosts, she could not tell. Juniper felt her hand squeeze and heard Ash's voice.
Your heart's racing. I know. Another attack? Yeah. You're going to be okay. Just hold on a little longer. We're nearly out.
The ghosts left their scorched perches to surround Juniper. She knew the phantoms weren't real, that they were just lingering trauma given form, waking nightmares, but their words still hurt. Juniper closed her eyes, tightened her grip around Ash's hand, and continued forward.
You've been listening to The Written, brought to you by the New Media Lab and the Office of Athletics and Campus Engagement. Your host for this episode was Anaya Barr. Our guest today was Annalise DeVito, and our readers were Javon Griffey and Justin Musewicz, who read on behalf of Max Lagunas. Our producer was Raven Amaro. Raven also edited this episode and prepared our title cards. Tashia White, Raven Amaro, and Lushonda Stevens are our co-executive producers. Victoria Colbreth and Samuel Larson designed our cover art. Indigo Frazier composed our theme music. And I am Sam Briggs, your announcer for this episode. Special thanks to the Director of Athletics and Campus Engagement, Allison Gleason, our faculty advisor, Professor Maria Boyd, and our in-studio technical support, George Dobbin and Simone Mocum. If you have an interest in joining our student organization, please reach out directly to the Office of Athletics and Campus Engagement. Follow us on our Instagram at DCCC_New Media Lab, and please be sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Thanks again for listening.